This is the Environmental Protection Commission regular meeting on Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. New business, EPC 08-2026, PL 2614, 53 Norotan Avenue, A Gold Shoal and B Gold Shoal, to construct residential addition, hardscape, and other related features proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Norotan Avenue, approximately 150 feet north of Casement Street, and is identified as map 43, lot number 32. The zone is R1/3 and is approximately 0.21 acres.
Mr. Chairman, the application has made its way to the agenda this evening to acknowledge its receipt, start the statutory time clock, make a determination as to the necessity of a public hearing, and to solicit any preliminary comments you may have on the application that I could add to my initial review comments for transmittal to the applicant.
Okay, does any commissioner have questions or comments, initial comments on this application?
You want me to start?
Sure.
So I didn't see a wetland restoration plan. There was a document in that area, but it was not, it was the drainage easement. It showed the drainage easement and so forth. So no, there was no planting plan. With regard to the addition, I was wondering, it looks like there's a basement. I was wondering if it's a basement or a crawl space. There were like hatch marks on the garage, and I didn't really know what those represented. Like the narrative was a little bit confusing, so I didn't know if the garage was remaining or if those hatch marks indicated removal of the garage. And also, I didn't see a soil report. I can see the flood zone, but really couldn't tell where the upland review area was because it just showed the flood zone. And also, given that the house is in the flood zone, is this one of those?
Property is not in the flood zone.
It's not in the flood zone?
No.
Okay, then never mind. My question is irrelevant then. So that's all that I have.
Peter?
No comments.
Trevor?
None for me.
No, okay. Yeah, I'd like to throw in that anything basement related, even crawl space, I want to know about a perk test. Okay, I want to know what the water level is there because I'm sure it's pretty high. Okay, any grading and filling affects two adjacent properties there, one on Casement Street and 55. Okay, and that would be I'm not sure. I don't think a public hearing is justified, but I want the neighbors to know. Okay, because they're going to find if there's regrading there and hardscape, etc.
The grading does go right.
They're going to have to mail, they're going to have mailing to everybody within like 100 yards.
Not only if there's a public hearing.
And you think it's in the public interest?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is not in a flood zone?
No.
Okay, and I'm a little surprised about that too, but anyway, if they're going to have, I don't want any plans for sump pumps. Okay, if they're there, because I'm not going to have any more water added to that branch. That's a pretty saturated little piece that goes behind 55 Norotan Avenue. Has a little stream in the back of it, and that's not a can't have any more water going through that, particularly during storms. So as a result, I'm going to be looking for reasonable and prudent alternatives. Okay, they could build an addition to up the hill a little bit in the front or whatever, but in the back there is a tough one. Okay, Rick. So if you could consider that. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Moving on, EPC 09-2026 PL 2615, 40 Relihan Road, D. Gacom and V. Cois to construct a deck patio and other related features proximate to the wetlands. Property lies along the east side of Rutherhand Road, approximately 500 feet south of LaForge Road, and is identified as map number 45, lot number 91. The zone is R1/5 and R1/3. It is approximately 0.52 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, the application has made its way to the agenda to acknowledge receipt, to start the statutory time clock, to determine as to the necessity of a public hearing, and to solicit any initial comments. The house was substantially renovated over the last year and a half or so. In fact, we just closed it out, and now they're back for what's reported as a deck and patio, but I think that it's going to be trimmed down to just a deck that lies within the upland review area.
Okay.
So they're not going to do that patio, that was optional.
It looks like they will not be doing it.
Okay.
Carolyn, you have
We'll
any
get the
comments?
amended plans.
Just two things. I didn't see an operations and maintenance plan for the drainage. And I did not see a planting plan, especially in that northeast corner of the site. If it's lawn, it maybe should be reclaimed with some plantings. I don't know if there are any invasives there. Actually, invasives were mentioned in the soil report, so we should remediate those. And that would be all I have.
Okay, Peter?
Yeah, my question was just whether this was going to be a traditional wood deck with concrete piers and not structural onto the ground.
The deck is going to be, because they are doing a depth of stone underneath as the drainage mitigation.
8 feet.
It's inches.
It says feet, though.
Yeah, it should be inches.
Okay, I wondered about that.
We'll tell them we want it corrected,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it does say 8.
because otherwise we're gonna hold them to 8
It
feet.
says it in 2 different places.
It'll be a traditional deck, but when you build decks like this and you want it to infiltrate through the deck, you're gonna have some wider joints between the planking. So it's basically a typical wood deck with some minor modifications.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. EPC 10-2026, PL 26-17, 21 Holly Lane, B. Mayhew and J. Mayhew, to remove pavement patios, regrade and landscape proximate to the wetlands. Property lies along the north side of Holly Lane, approximately 1,265 feet east of Newton Avenue, and is identified as map number 9, lot number 142. Zone is R1 and is approximately 1.05 acres.
So Chairman, this, like the predecessors here, the application has made its way to the agenda to acknowledge receipt, start the statutory time clock, determine if a public hearing is necessary, and solicit any initial comments. You will note that the plans that you have reflected show a dwelling, brand new dwelling. This was a fire damaged dwelling that was actually demolished. We have since had a modified plan submitted, and that's why it's reflected in the text of the application, that moved the house, the new house, because they're not using the same foundation, outside of the regulated areas with enough room that you can reasonably construct that new nest, so that the regulated activities are limited to some de minimis removals of patio and driveway space, some minor regrading, and some landscaping in the regulated areas. So it was their willingness to shift it over that enabled them to move forward with their building permit for the house. And so we're limiting the work in the regulated areas to what I just described.
But does this warrant agent approval? Because it's removal of,
There's no filling of
removal of
wetlands.
impervious surface.
There's no filling of wetlands, and we'll just work with them to make sure that the areas are stabilized, and work on the planting plan a little bit with it.
Does anybody, you're fine? You're fine?
Yep.
I was just going to ask, those very big green screening type trees, are those going to be removed or are those remaining?
Remaining.
The remaining, okay, because then the wetlands are behind that.
Mhm.
You couldn't really get back there to see what was back there. And it looked to me that, the planting plan was not really located next to the wetlands. Maybe that could be enhanced a tiny bit and maybe moved a little bit closer to the wetlands. And that was really all that I had.
Good, so.
I think, I think it's great that they moved it further away from the wetlands.
No, they moved it there, yeah, and so we can, I think, use an agent approval. An agent approval is it doesn't come before us, it goes in front of Rick.
Yeah.
Rick goes and does his thing, and, but it doesn't have as much impact. There is impact on the upland review area, but it's de minimis. And so what happens is, instead of taking the time of the commission, Rick will take a look at it, get modifications, talk to the applicant, and then come back to us finally, and if we're okay with it, then it just goes through, but if we want to see it, and you go, wait a minute, I didn't see this, it can always come back in front of us.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, moving on, EPC 11, 2026, PL 26-27, 12 Locust Hill Road, APANG to construct an accessory dwelling ADU, hardscape, retaining walls, drainage, and other related features proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the south side of Locust Hill, the access of which lies approximately 450 feet west of Delafield Island Road, and is identified as map number 64, lot number 106B. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.421 acres.
Mr. Chairman, the application has made its way to the agenda to start the statutory time clock, acknowledge receipt, determine if it has to the necessity of a public hearing, and to solicit the initial comments. It's for, just a little bit of background on the application, is that this is a fairly new construction. I believe it was previously approved, certainly by many of the land use, maybe even the EPC. I think even before I got here, many of you had joined the commission. It was constructed, it was successfully constructed, and this is to install a separate ADU unit on the property with its attendant drainage facilities and some patio space, etc.
Anybody have anything? Trevor, Peter?
No.
Yeah, I have a couple things, of course. The narrative was particularly good, I thought, as was the stormwater, the maintenance plan. I just want to call that out because I'm always like harping on that with them, and they did a great job with it this time. I was just wondering if any trees were going to be removed, and I didn't see a planting plan. I know that the disturbance in the upland review area is temporary, but they will be running lines through there and everything, so I think they could do a little something, but that's all I have.
Okay, moving on, EPC 12-2026, PL 26-32, 16 Arrowhead Way, D. Ebrahimi and S. Ebrahimi, to install drainage, fill, regrade, and construct alternative wetland areas and related features in and approximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the west side of Arrowhead Way, approximately 350 feet north of Dogwood Lane South, and is identified as map number 64, lot number 25. The zone is R1 and is approximately 1 acre.
Another application slated for acceptance this evening. For those of you that are on the commission for maybe the last couple of years, this had been a prior application before the EPC that ultimately time ran out and it was withdrawn. The applicant, as you described, this is essentially a project to fill a small pocket wetland that's behind the house. The owner has shown that there's been substantial drainage issues on the property, and they are seeking to come up with a plan to remedy the drainage impacts, and in this case, it would be filling the small pocket wetland and creating wetlands elsewhere on the property. It's made its way to the agenda. Again, acknowledge receipt, start the time clock, determination as to the necessity of a public hearing, and for what reasons, and to any initial information that you would want to have submitted as part of this application.
I'll start with this one. Okay, he's eliminating a wetland, not so sure I like that, but he's extending another wetland, which is near his neighbor. So his neighbor is affected, correct?
Well,
His neighbor is now going to have.
If it is in fact created as a wetland, the regulatory buffer would extend an additional linear distance off the property.
Off the property. So essentially that affects his neighbor.
Mhm.
Okay, and affects the building square of his neighbor. Okay, so I guess in order for that neighbor to officially know that this is happening to his property, that would have to be a public hearing, correct?
Well, that's the trigger mechanism for the notification, yes.
All right. Then I think there should be a public hearing because he's affecting his neighbor pretty deep, pretty significantly. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Tokenique is, and particularly there, is just one massive wetland. And, any change of topology there just, is a series of dominoes. So I think there should be a public hearing, and I think people around that property should know what's going on. So that's I don't know how you guys feel, but.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've seen an application where someone's looking to either quote-unquote move a wetland or fill in a wetland, which goes contrary. I kind of think in most cases we see wetlands that are naturally occurring. So I would really need to be convinced that either this was not a naturally occurring wetland or there was some particular circumstances. So I would also endorse a public hearing for public interest and also adverse impact on the wetlands. I also don't know, but I wonder if Tokenique, which is essentially a homeowners association, I wonder if there needs to be some approval by them in this process. Do they approve, these types of activities? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure.
Well, they own the roads, so
Yeah.
they own the roads, so by definition, they would have to be advised.
Right, I would think so.
That's my
I would think so.
that's my understanding of the Tokenique Association.
But I think in the public hearing process, maybe they become then at least apprised of this. So I think that's a double reason for the public hearing.
Yeah, I would agree. I also am a little bit struggling with the moving the wetland because you're not able to enjoy a part of your yard. That to me is a stretch, but I echo the support for a public hearing.
Yeah, I think a public hearing is warranted as well.
Okay. All right, do we need to take a vote for that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll move.
and the reasons
No.
why.
Excuse
Would
me.
you like to move it?
Carolyn? Carolyn has a role here.
Oh, yeah, excellent.
I make a motion to hold a public hearing for EPC 12-2026, 16 Arrowhead Way for the purposes of public interest and impact on the wetlands.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. Do you have any notes that you want to?
Yeah, I just had a couple things. I was going to say the same thing that Peter did, which is, in 4.5 years, having served on this commission for 4.5 years, I know that this application did come before us a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year, but we never really evaluated it because, as you said, the clock ran out on it, so we didn't really, analyze it. And I was just, same thing. I mean, it sort of runs counter to, it doesn't seem logical to be moving a wetland, but I was just going to say that I'm curious as to how it's going to be explained to us, how that, and whether or not I know that the new wetland is going to be larger than the existing one, is it going to be as effective? It seems like it might be because they're putting all the plants in there. And I also just wondered if any alternatives had been considered, like taking that existing wetland behind the house and maybe putting the plantings there and like maybe trying to, you know, make that a little bit more functional. That was, and I also didn't really understand some of the drainage going from the back to the front area where that, yeah, I don't know if that's a true water course because it looks like it begins in that yard, but then it goes under the road, it looks like. I wanted a little clarification on that. So.
Okay, moving on, EPC 13, 2020.
Wait, so
What?
we vote?
We did,
Yeah, we did.
yeah.
EPC 13, 2026, PL 26-33, 43 Blueberry Lane, R. Sinclair and A. Sinclair, to remove trees, repair a fence, expand the pool terrace, and install native plantings in and approximate to the wetlands. The property lies along the west side of Blueberry Lane, approximately 1,175 feet south of Fox Ridge Lane, and is identified as map number 7, lot number 34. The zone is R2, and it is approximately 1.44 acres.
Mr. Chairman, another application slated for acceptance to acknowledge receipt, to start the clock, and to determine if a public hearing is necessary, and to solicit any of the initial comments you may have that I can add to my own review of the initial review of the application.
You want me to start?
Of course.
Okay, so I do have some questions and concerns about this. I was wondering if we could get some clarification on whether the existing chain link fence was permitted by EPC. It's not, there's I don't know if it was the deed or there was one schematic where it was from us. Might have been a survey from 2020. It was not on there, so we know it's been installed since, excuse me, not 2020, 2000. So we know it's been installed since then, but that's a long time. I do have concern about elevating the existing fence to 7 feet, especially in the wetlands where it shouldn't be to begin with. And I was wondering if I would suggest that they consider some alternatives to doing that. And then I think the number of trees to be removed is 20. I know many of them are beeches, and I know the beech leaf disease it's just terrible, and it's been, you know, it's just been running rampant through our landscapes. I know that a lot of trees are dying, but especially the 3 trees that are in the actual wetland way in the back, you know, that's sort of a wooded area back there, and there is value in having, you know, dead and dying trees in a wetland. I mean, they do serve numerous functions, beneficial functions for the ecosystem. So as an alternative, I think they should consider, you know, all of the trees that they're planning to remove. Anything that's near their pool or in the area, their backyard where their living space, that's a hazard, of course. I understand removing those, but the ones that are way in the back, I just don't really see that those have to be taken out. And then they are removing 20 trees. The plant list it's a lot of plants, but they're mostly shrubs, perennials, and grasses. There's actually only 1 tree listed on the plant list, a dogwood tree. I would think that, given the number of trees that they're taking out, that they should consider putting in some, oaks or other shade trees, some other large trees, not just shrubs and perennials and grasses. And also I noticed that in I guess we would consider it a pocket wetland that's, closer to the house, that area where the rocks are, they're taking the rocks out. We usually ask people to put boulder demarcations in, and they're taking them out. So if they do take them out, I think that, once the new plants are in there, they should put a boulder demarcation in, or just leave what's existing there, because it looks like it does sort of roughly outline what the wetland. So that's all that I had.
Peter?
No, nothing further, I think.
She's right to follow us.
No, she was great. I agree with her.
Oh,
Kevin?
My only question is, it says the project's gonna be done over 5 years. Do we issue, is that something that we're comfortable with? Given that, like, we have to monitor the whole entire project then for a period of 5 years?
The permit's good for initially 5 years, extendable up to
Oh, okay,
14, so.
okay.
Is it unusual? Yes.
They have to
Is
come,
it-
they have to come back to us after 5 and say, hey.
Got it.
And say, hey, we were supposed to do A, B,
And
C,
then what
D.
happens if they wanna alter something that we
It,
approve?
it depends on if it's a major improvement,
And that's like,
it comes back. If it says, I'm moving this shrub to here, like that, I don't want to see that, and he can approve that.
okay,
And he will normally just talk to Rick and say like this, but if we're gonna go, I need, just had a kid, they're gonna, she's a girl, she's gonna need closets. So let's extend out, so let's extend out the house. You go, wait a minute, that's not included
Okay.
in the initial approval, so that would have to come back to us.
okay,
So,
yeah,
it's just to give you
that's all I've got.
Okay. 74, EPC 14-2026, PL 26-34, 74 Pembroke Road. M. O'Connor and S. O'Connor to construct and/or expand a driveway turnaround, patio, pergola, and other related features proximate to the wetlands and watercourses. The property lies along the south side of Pembroke Road, approximately 575 feet east of Salisbury, and is identified as map number 1. The lot is 98, the zone is R2, and is approximately 1.28 acres.
Last acceptance. The application has made its way to the agenda to acknowledge receipt, start the statutory time clock, determination as to the necessity of a public hearing, and to solicit some of your initial comments. I'll be composing a letter that will be going out to highlight the issues and concerns, and hopefully they'll respond promptly.
Go ahead, Carol.
Again, I thought the narrative was really well organized and very nicely explained the plan. Same with putting in the pervious pavement. They have a nice operations and maintenance plan for taking care of that. They're decreasing the site imperviousness, which is good. They mentioned that they all have a planting plan. I'm just looking forward to seeing that. I would assume that it's probably going to be down in that corner of the property where the wetlands are. And then my only other comment or question was whether any trees would be removed. Didn't see any mention of that in the narrative.
Is that it?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that's it.
Peter?
No comments.
Okay. Okay, old business. EPC 23-25, PL 25-168, 52 Blueberry Lane, S. Stack and S. Wallerstein, Venezia, to maintain a stone wall, fireplace walls, and patio constructed within close proximity to the wetlands and watercourses. Special flood hazard areas. The property lies along the east side of Blueberry Lane, approximately 775 feet south of Oxbridge Lane, is identified as map number 7, lot number 41. Zone is R2 and is approximately 1.866 acres. We have a resolution.
Resolution was drafted. The EPC heard this application over a 3-month period, starting back in November. It had also been a prior application, if you remember. The issues, important issues relative to resource impacts, drainage, water quality, and the value of the mitigations that have been proposed to enhance the values of the regulated areas and property were submitted. At the last meeting, staff was directed to draft the resolution.
Any questions or comments on the resolution?
I just had the few, that I
Okay.
sent you. I copied you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
yes.
So you want me to make a motion?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve EPC 25-2025, 52 Blueberry Lane.
Second that motion.
All in favor? That's 4. 0, and 1 abstention. EPC 26-25 PL 25-174, 410 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, the Weber Country Club, Inc., to maintenance dredge pond. The proposed activities affect wetlands, watercourses, floodplain, and upland review areas. Access to the property lies along the north side of Hollow Tree Ridge Road, just west of Hanson Road, and is identified as map number 7, lot number 66. The zone is R2, and is approximately 210.56 acres.
Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, I was directed to draft a resolution for the Commission's consideration. The issues, important issues relating to the dredging operation, including the drainage, water quality, the value of mitigations proposed, resource impacts were presented over a 3-month period from November to February, and they were thoroughly vetted. Available to answer questions if need be.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? No? Okay, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve EPC 26-2025, 410 Hollow Tree Ridge Road, the Weber Country Club, Incorporated.
Second that motion.
All in favor? 4, 0, and 1. Okay, moving on, EPC 27-25. Okay, EPC 27-2025 PL 25-175, 49 Birch Road, E. Romer. To maintenance dredge pond, the proposed activities affect wetlands, watercourses, and upland review areas. Property lies along the west side of Birch Road, approximately 500 feet north of Point of Woods Road, and is identified as map number 11, lot 11. The zone is R1 and is approximately 1.02 acres.
Mr. Chairman, we're in receipt of a correspondence from the applicant requesting that the matter be withdrawn at this time in order to develop necessary additional information and responses to our prior request for bringing the site into compliance with some outstanding issues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're withdrawn. Okay. EPC 01-2026 PL 25-197, 1 Pilgrim Road, R. Griswold and C. Griswold, to construct a pool house maintenance expand patios, construct walls, install drainage, and implement other related activities within close proximity to wetlands and watercourses. Property lies along the east side of Pilgrim Road, approximately 600 feet south of Stephen Mather Road, and is identified as map number 1, lot number 19. The zone is R2, and is approximately 2.002 acres.
Mr. Chairman, this application was given considerable attention at last month's meeting, where many of the issues that were highlighted by both the commission and staff were addressed. However, at that February 4th meeting, the commission developed a list of information and clarifications that would be necessary to move forward. There was correspondence that was generated as a result of that meeting. Essentially, the issues have been more narrowly focused on alternatives, the availability of alternatives, certain modifications to the planting plan that better defines treatment details and long-term maintenance strategies for non-native invasives, modification of the planting plan to expand and intensify the boulder demarcation feature, modification of civil and landscape drawings to clearly define trees to be saved and removed, and certain modifications, minor modifications to the sediment erosion control plan. I can report that in response to those questions and concerns, the applicant has submitted revised plans and correspondence that were installed in your application package. The applicant is here this evening, and his engineer and other representatives to discuss those. Essentially, they'll be going into detail on why the pool house location on certain other portions of the property is not the preferred alternative, and why the proposed pool house in its current location, although albeit on the same side as the commission had previously, has been modified to further expand the buffer to to the wetlands and water courses. Planting plan has been modified, and all those details that are, that pertain to the invasive treatments and plantings. Just the placement of boulder demarcation feature has been intensified from approximately, instead of a 10-foot or 25-foot offset to like 10-foot offset, and expanded. Treatment and details, long-term maintenance and strategies for the non-native invasives have been clarified and expanded. Native planting plan has been expanded as well. Additional lawn area has been removed. And so the expanded planting displaces an additional 300 square feet of lawn over the site. So it goes from like 1,600 to 1,900 square feet as being restored. Inlet protection has been added to the sediment erosion control plan, and there's been a clarification of the trees lost. It's actually a total of, looks to be 7 trees that were reflected on the plans that will be affected by the development. And again, Mr. Bauer is here from Cosetis Engineering, and it will be addressing in detail the whole alternative discussion and how they came up with the plan that they currently have before the commission.
Very good. Well, I think Rick covered it, so I think we're set. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Avon Bauer. I'm a professional engineer with Cosetis Engineering out of Fairfield. And I just wanted to take you through a little recap of this project that we discussed last month. So if you remember, there's a brook that runs through this portion of the property here. This pool is existing. It's a 17 by 34 pool, approximately. You know, it's a little bit off from that. And what we're proposing to do is construct a pool house and a couple of patio expansions. Associated with that is a subsurface drainage system and a significant sediment erosion control plan, which includes double rows of silt fence, protected stockpile areas, mud tracking pads, and as Rick mentioned, we've also added some inlet protection for when the system goes in. That's going to be protected until the grounds have been fully stabilized. So a lot of the discussion last month was regarding the position of the pool house and why we felt that that was the best option for what we're going to do. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of the alternatives that we have considered and just some of the feedback that we've had. So the first alternative that we considered that was discussed by the commission was to move the pool onto this portion of the property. What makes this very unfavorable is what you can see in red. There's an existing retaining wall that would have to be removed in order to put it on that side, just to create about 10 feet of space between the pool house and the pool. The other major concern is that this is going to be about a 3.5-foot wall with additional fill material that's going to need to be imported. So basically what winds up happening is right in this area, the grade comes up to about where the pool is, whereas down here, this retaining wall, and then the grade slopes down towards the wetlands a little bit more. So this area is about 3.5 feet lower than the existing pool elevation. So in order to get this on par and create, you know, like the movable space around at the elevation of the pool, we'd be importing a lot more material and causing a lot more disturbance. Not to mention, we don't know what kind of footings that this wall may have. If they're, you know, 2-3 feet wide, this 7 or 9.5 foot encroachment could be closer to 5 feet by the time we actually figure out what size those footings are. One of the other alternatives that was discussed was to have the pool on the northeast side here, or the northwest side, excuse me. But this red line here is the zoning building setback line. So in order to adhere to that setback line, having the pool house in this area, it would only give about 3.5 feet between the water's edge and the pool house. A very narrow walkway that, you know, the homeowners have kind of discussed that it would just be too unsafe for their children and their guests and everybody walking around. So they'd really prefer not to go with that option as well. This graphic I have here is a layout of the changes that we made to our plan that showed the expanded buffer area and how we're pulling everything away from the wetlands a little bit more. So what you see in blue is the original layout that had the pool at about 11.5 feet, which has now been moved 3.5 feet in to be about 14 feet from the wetlands. And the retaining wall over here was about 7.5 feet, which has now been reduced to 12 feet, or expanded to 12 feet away from the wetlands under this current proposal. It still gives adequate room around the pool for the owners to be able to walk around, and we're still taking advantage of the filled-in area in this portion of the property. And I did want to just throw up a couple extra pictures because I don't know that everybody had the opportunity to visit the property. But this is taken from the bottom side of that retaining wall. You can see it's about a 3-foot retaining wall down over here. The pool house would be about where I'm standing if this were the case. And as you can see, the pool is about a foot higher than the retaining wall, which is what we would need in order to bring in all that fill to get that area level. And then this is the area that they're proposing the actual pool house, excuse me. You can see, I know it's a little hard to tell from the perspective, but this area here is all very similar to the pool elevation already. That area has already been, elevated to that, to match the pool. This is just it from the other side as well. This is the kind of area that we're talking about where they put the pool house, because it's all elevated. I know it's hard to tell from the perspective, but it does slope down about 4 feet to the wetlands there. And then, you can see in some of these pictures as well, but this is the significant bamboo forest that they are planning to remove as part of this proposal. So one of the key motivators we discussed for the removal of the bamboo was, they really want, if they're going to go through the effort to put in their pool house and stuff, they want to make everything look extremely nice. They want to pull all that bamboo out. They're totally on board and completely understand I think it's a 1 to 2 and then a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 10 year maintenance plan that's been added for the long-term invasives on the property, as well as, they don't want it there either, so they're more than happy to get rid of it as part of this permit application. I think that just about covers kind of everything that we've gone through over the last month, and I'm more than happy to take any questions, and I thank you for your time.
You have a pool fence?
Yeah, the pool fence runs atop the retaining wall, the existing retaining wall, and ties in along the retaining wall that's being proposed.
So it's not going to be in the,
Parameter.
No, it will not be in the wetlands area.
Thank you.
Basically, the limit of disturbance will be the pool fence, give or take. Pool fence runs along the top of the existing retaining wall and then follows the proposed
relevant.
retaining wall.
Okay. And they'll have a cover on the pool, I imagine?
An auto cover you're referring to?
An auto cover, because obviously they got to be concerned about insurance.
So it's an existing pool, so I don't know that I don't think does it have an auto cover now? It does, okay, so there will be an auto cover, correct.
Okay.
Never hurts to have both methods of protection.
Belt and suspender. Carolyn?
Okay, I'll start. So I don't think that we have seen any, we haven't seen any schematics of the pool house. I know that it's 10 by 16, and I was just wondering if you could sort of characterize the size of that in terms of pool houses. Would you say that that's small, medium, large?
Yeah.
Does it have seating in it, that type of thing?
Yeah, I got you. So really the pool house is more or less just a bathroom, a changing area, and I believe just like a little kind of sitting area. It's nothing expansive, it doesn't have any bedrooms in it or anything like that. The 10 by 16 is very close in size to about what this podium that you guys are up on right now. So you see it's not overly large. It's a prefabricated thing, so basically the only activity that we'd be doing independently would be pouring the slab and hooking up the utilities.
So is there like you mentioned a seating area. Are there windows that look out over the brook area? Because the homeowner had mentioned in their letter that, how, the seating, how they really want to celebrate the brook, and how that's,
of course.
That one of the reasons for the pool house is to really sort of incorporate the brook.
And enhance it.
Yeah. So is that part of that?
Are there windows in the back of the pool house, do you know?
I don't think it comes with windows on the back of it.
I know
I'd love there to be, but you can get enough of it on the sides because it's a modest enough pool house. So
Okay.
that was the thought. If it came with windows on the back, all the
yes,
better.
that's the
But
owner.
I think I don't think it comes
Yeah,
prefab.
excuse me a second. I would ask you to come to the podium, please. Identify yourself.
All right.
Because people who on Channel 79 can't hear you, and we can't
I
record it.
can hear you, but I just need your name, so I.
But if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, apologies for that. Ryan Griswold, I'm the homeowner. Yeah, it's a prefab, so I don't think there's a
Okay.
window in the back. I'd love there to be, but I think we'll get enough of it off the sides that was the thought.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it was a prefab.
Yeah, it's so that kind of gets to the modesty of it. It's pretty small,
Okay.
or as small as we could get.
Okay. And then, Mr. Bauer, I have another couple questions for
Yeah,
you.
of course.
So you said that alternative number 2, which put the pool house on the northwest side, that is less desirable because it only permits like a 3.5-foot walkway between the pool house and the pool. Is there a sort of recommended code required amount of space between a pool house and the pool?
I don't know that there's exactly a recommended, as far as like the building code goes. I would think for ADA purposes, I can tell you like what the ADA considers a safe walkway is usually 5 or 6 feet, depending
5
on
to
the
6.
situation.
Okay.
Just-
And then my next question is probably not going to make sense now because, again,
Sure.
because of the setbacks. I was going to ask, could the pool house be somewhat reconfigured instead of being 10 by 16? Could it be 8 by 18? But if
Yeah.
it's prefab,
It's prefabricated, and again, it's a kind of the smallest thing that they can get that gives them the little bit of space that they want.
okay.
If you read in the letter, a main purpose
Yeah.
of this is that, you know, the only access to a bathroom that you have in that pool area
Yeah.
is to go all the way to the other side of
Right.
the house.
Yeah, no,
So
I
it's-
read that.
That's a
They
big
don't
component of what they're looking for.
So then, okay, so with I see the existing patio, and it's, you know, it like kind of is scalloped sort of.
Yeah, it kind of walks around the pool. to a
How
degree.
much between what's existing and how you're bumping it out, how much space is that, including on which the pool house will sit? How many feet?
Dimensionally out,
Yes.
I mean, I think, because there is a part of the patio, like you said, where the pool house is going, that it does bow
Yeah.
out. I think it's about 4 or 5 feet at the most extent, but like, there is a portion of the patio that's gonna come out, I think about 8 feet from the
Because
existing
it
patio.
indents.
Just because of the way that it comes up, so like at
Right.
the peak of this to the back of the pool house is, I think, 4 or 5 feet.
But on that widest part of it to,
Yeah.
it's only about 4 feet then?
I believe so, yeah, I think you're referring to kind of this area up over here, right?
Yes,
Because like the existing patio is right here,
right,
and then this is the original submission, let me get this one here. So that, the distance that you're referring to would be from the back of the pool house here to right there, which, yeah, I think is about, I would say 4 or 5 feet.
and then with this sort of modified plan that you're showing us, it's further away from the brook than it was
Correct.
the original plan. How much space is there between the pool house and the pool on this plan?
On this plan, I believe we kept 9 feet of space between the pool house and the pool.
Okay, and you're pretty set on 9 feet being the minimum?
Yeah, it still gives the ability for like 2 people to walk, or if you were to set down a chair somewhere around there, you could still get around it. Anything less than that, and you're kind of blocking off passageway if you were to be in front of that pool house.
Okay, and then I have a couple questions about the planning plan. Would you be able to answer those?
I can certainly do my best.
Okay, so last time we thought there was only 1 to 2 trees that were being removed, but now we're seeing that there's 7. Is
Yeah.
there a reason why? Because the trees are not really in the way of the construction.
Sure.
Why are those trees being removed?
So these two would be kind of in the general scope of the construction, you know, between the walls and the footings for the walls. This tree would probably be destroyed, and this one
The
certainly
double,
would.
I think it's a double oak tree, or?
Yes, yeah, I think that's a 20-inch maple and a double oak. The double oak sits inside the area where they're kind of carving out a little bit of area.
Okay, so then why the other 5?
These trees over here is what you're referring
Mm-hmm.
to. Primarily, it's for aesthetics. They're kind of scraggly looking trees. They're not in the greatest of health. They're kind of just choking each other out because they're so densely populated. If it's, I did discuss with the homeowners, you know, they understand they don't want to put anything, they don't want to remove anything in the wetlands area. That was a big critical component that we wanted to stress. We're not going to remove anything there. And then the tree replacement, I forget what the new number is off the landscape plan, but there are some trees and bushes and significant plantings that are being proposed all along here. I think like it's almost a 3 or 4 to 1 replacement, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 trees that in the planting plan, most of it is shrubs and grasses and ground cover.
Okay, my apologies, then I'm wrong.
Yeah,
In that case,
so maybe as an alternative, we could
Sure.
consider some larger trees than
Sure.
some of the smaller ones. Space between and then where you have the planting plan, there's still some space between the plants going in and the wetlands. What is going to fill that void? Is
This area here is
Yes.
what you're referring to?
it? Yes.
So that's existing pretty dense. There are some mature trees and there's
Okay.
a lot of the bamboo is coming out of there, but there are
And when
some
I
other
saw
things.
it's all full of snow.
It's,
so
yeah, I
couldn't
know.
see-
Like I said, it's hard to appreciate and see fully, but yeah, a lot of what you could see is, like, see, there's there's a tree right here. I think there's another one in through here. You can see another one on this side. This is the head wall where the brook comes out, which in relation to the plan is right here. So you see like that, there's 2 trees that exist here and here, another one further back. So there's kind of mature plantings there. They don't want to plant any shrubs or anything that might destroy that root structure of the
Right, I
mature
understand.
trees.
And then my last comment or question is just, there is still a fair amount of lawn leading up to the water course.
You're referring to up
And
over
I
this
think it
area?
would be the, what would that be? That would be the south part of the, south part
This
down
area
there,
down
yes.
here? Yeah, so that area they're not proposing, like I said, they're proposing a big planting buffer, like kind of at the back of that retaining wall, but all of this is, proposed to remain exactly the same.
Right.
There's a small vegetable garden here that, the homeowners understand, to use, organic fertilizers and things of that nature in that garden for them, so.
Organic land care, okay.
Yeah.
Just, we like to see sort of a buffer next to
Sure.
water courses, to filter even, with practicing organic land care, there is still erosion, sediment going into the water course and so forth. So, that might be something to consider, doing some small amount of landscaping.
Perhaps a couple shrubs or something be taken and moved over next to the garden in this general area, is that what you're referring to? I think that's something we could accommodate, sure.
That's all that I had.
So if I understand it correctly, the alternative here is to move essentially 5 more feet away from the stream.
Yeah, plus or minus, it's about, I think, that's on this one here.
I think it was 8
So,
versus 13.
It's the way that we configured everything. We kind of jogged the wall in as well because we know that was the point of greatest encroachment. So the wall goes from 7.5 to about 12 feet, and the pool house from 11.5 to 14 feet. So the pool house is 2.5 feet closer. The wall is 4.5 feet closer to the pool, that is, away from the wetlands.
Farther away.
Further away from the wetlands.
From
Yeah,
our
I'm sorry,
perspective,
I
farther
said-
away.
I'm thinking in relation to the pool, you're thinking, I gotta switch.
And you're talking wetland, not water course? 'cause
Wetland, yeah, the
okay.
water course is it's about, varies, but it's between, 2 feet and 4 feet
Right.
off the actual wetlands, so, for lack of a better term, the wetland and the water course are kind of the same in this aspect.
Okay, so step me through one more time why the alternative, placing it to the right.
This one here,
Yes.
this area here.
Yeah, let's go through that one, okay.
So the biggest obstacle to that is, for one, there's that existing retaining wall I showed the picture of that comes through here. It's about a 3-foot retaining wall, 2.5, 3 foot. So that would have to come out in order to kind of relay the patio and, gain access to this area. And then on top of that, this area here would be about a 3.5 foot high retaining wall, which the other concern I have with that is that we have, I kind of balance the cut and fill in relation to the drainage system and some of the activity we're doing, so that we don't have to import any material on site to kind of feather the grades in. This would require most likely the import of additional material, would bring it up about 3.5 feet and just kind of break everything up.
I'm not sure I'm understanding it. Maybe break it down a
Sure.
little bit more for me.
So, let's see if I can get a good picture.
Let me start by, this is a
Yeah.
prefab. Is the optionality on the prefab construction to place the door on any one of the lateral walls?
I don't believe so. I think the prefab that this one is, it comes off the main.
So
large-
isn't that really your impediment? Is that you have a door now that's gonna face a drop?
Yes, yeah, that would be one of the other issues as well. It's
But
right up
that's the
against the
major
pool.
issue, right? If you had the door on the side panel, not the frontal, but.
Somewhere over here.
Yeah, or
Or the other side.
Or the
Yeah,
other
you
Yeah,
side,
you
can't-
could walk
you can't
up,
do-
step up.
You could step out, yeah.
yeah.
But it would be, if we kept it at grade, it would be about 3 feet below the pool elevation, which it just makes things look very awkward. You'd basically be sitting in the pool looking at
I
the top of your
understand.
pool house.
Yep.
So that's the idea, is it would need to kind of come up. Yeah, I know, like I said, it's hard to appreciate, but it would be sitting somewhere in about here. This is
Yeah.
the existing retaining wall that I'm referring to.
Okay. And then one of the other alternatives is no pool house at all.
Of course, but the reason we're here is
Yeah.
ultimately for the pool house for the
All
most
right,
part.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think the only comment I would make, and thank you both for the in-depth reporting from the last meeting and questions. I would just say, look, the removal of that bamboo in the back and we're subbing it out for a pool house, to me, that's a value add here, because that stuff is just gonna keep growing and growing and growing and
We very much
ultimately, like,
agree.
ruin that wetland. So if that's gonna be done and that's gonna be seen through, I don't know how we monitor that on a long dated basis, because I know it takes a while to get that stuff out of
They
there.
have a plan for that.
So, yeah,
Right.
on the
Then I
landscaping
think
plan,
this
it's
is
broken
a, I think, look, the addition of this in a wetland, while it might not be, or in the review area, might not be ideal for us, removing that, to me, is.
We see it as a massive benefit just in that in itself, and then again, planting well over 100 plants as a buffer area, establishing a true buffer area, and the subsurface drainage being added where there is none now. We kind of feel that the net benefit is absolutely on the positive side.
Although I will also add that there is a state law on invasive bamboo. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I can assure you this was not planted by the homeowners. We've come with that discussion.
A stand like
Yeah,
that doesn't.
I was gonna say, I think that was
that's
discussed last time, because, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole different issue, because that was
Because
a problem we created.
it really pertains to when it was planted.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's been there for probably a good at least 10 years, if not more, and I mean,
Yeah, it looks mature.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Griswolds have,
More.
you know,
More.
been maintaining it themselves as best they can over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and to give you just a little perspective on how much when I moved in, the bamboo was like here, 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 and I've like just my own, like, I've just kind of tried to chip away and
When did you
maintain it.
move in?
We moved in 2017, so I've done my best. It's beyond me, but I've tried to keep it at bay. But it's incredibly invasive and fast,
Yeah.
as you all
Yeah.
know.
So maybe you or someone can talk about the maintenance of how to stop those shoots from continuing and what is part of that maintenance plan, because bamboo
Yeah.
is notorious about.
It always wants to
Regenerating
come back,
itself.
yeah. So that's kind of what the bulk of this here, the 2 to 3 phasing plan involves spot treatment for any sprouts. You know, they're going to keep looking and monitoring, and anytime you see just one shoot coming up, it's not like something where you can just kind of chop it down and be done with it. You have to pull it up all the way down to its root structure, unfortunately. So it's disruptive to the wetlands, but it's also incredibly invasive, as you know, and destructive in its own way. So that's after the initial removal, which is, you know, basically just go out there, cut it down to, you know, as low as it can be, and then pull it up as best they can. For the 2 to 3 years, it's going to be a constant monitoring every couple months. You know, you'll go out probably at least in the spring and fall, take a good look. 3 to 5 year, they'll do biannual inspections and, you know, do the same thing. Anytime they see a shoot, they'll come up.
Who's gonna do this?
I believe that would be Mr. Mazabras, Jobs Landscaping.
Okay, all right. No, you're professional, you know what you're doing, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
He's been
sorry.
around for a little while. He
All
knows.
right, okay.
So yeah, a lot of this kind of stuff is going to be going down. And then, you know, again, anytime there's a flood event, they're going to take another look, because bamboo loves that kind of water and flood, and they're going to see it as an option. And then, you know, again, it's just maintenance, really. It's just kind of walking around, seeing what you can find, and pull it when you do.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything? Comments? Questions? All right, my comments are, I think, and I'm going to direct Rick for you to write a resolution with one pending item on the planting, because we were moving, Carolyn, you had some ideas on.
To expand it
Yeah, to
beyond the
do that. I'd like that nailed down with you.
And maybe not reconsider removal of all of those trees, because I think a few of them you said were for aesthetics and,
Sure.
you know, I mean, if they,
Well,
the ones that are in the way.
let's get, I mean, the correct way is to get an arborist out there to take a look, because those guys see stuff that we don't. If the tree is damaged or it's you know, like this, then he would have a case to come and take it out.
We can
If-
provide
if
an
not-
arborist that for anything to
and
be
plants.
removed.
Okay, so because that would be, you know, if there's a health and safety concern, or you know, the tree is done, okay, and then I would support the applicant in saying take it out and replace it. But
Replace,
if
Yes.
if they're stuffing together and the stand is impinging one against the other, maybe you want to have them more spaced out so that they can bloom on their own. But
So,
Yeah.
just to get this clear, it sounds like you want for every tree removed, you'd like, something, a reasonable, respectable tree.
no,
Well-
the stand of trees you pointed out before was they were planted too close together.
Yeah, they're very-
They were probably by some ambitious landowner way before you guys. Put them too close together. They all grew up to be big trees, and now
Yeah.
they're rubbing.
They're all very close, yeah.
they're all integrated, rubbing branches
Yep.
against each other.
Yep.
That's not something that's not healthy for the trees, and it's not something I want to repeat. All I'm saying is just a rational plan as to
Sure.
what if you take out 7, you take out 7 because it's a grove. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And they're impinging upon each other's growth, and that's not a healthy situation for the trees.
Sure.
I'm saying, I don't know if it's, I don't know what the correct number is. I'll take a
understand.
professional, you come back with somebody who understands that better than I do, the type of tree and how close they should be planted together.
Yeah.
And, and maybe plant another tree or something. Nail down as far as I'm concerned, nail down the planting plan. Staff can approve that as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate it.
And then so we can move on with this. Okay?
Yeah, we appreciate it. I think that's something we can agree to. And just to further your point, the one tree that they do want to save is a beautiful tulip that's sitting right along the kind of straddling part of the property line with its grove. And everything underneath that tulip, as you know, grows huge, and it has a massive canopy.
Yeah.
And it's effectively choked out all the other trees that
Yeah.
tried to grow, because the
Yeah.
tulip grew faster and bigger than everything
Yep,
else, so.
yep. So,
They do grow fast.
so that's something you want to consider, okay? That's,
Yeah.
that, an arborist will understand that.
Appreciate it.
Far
Yeah.
beyond me. Okay, so you have the direction, Rick? Okay. Everybody else okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Very good.
Thank you very much for
Commissioners.
attending this. I appreciate your comments.
Appreciate it.
Moving on, EPC 02-2026 PL 25-199, 120 Brookside Road, Town of Darien. To maintenance dredge a pond in Cherry Lawn Park. The project affects wetlands, watercourses, and upland review areas. The property lies along the east side of Brookside Road, approximately 1,075 feet north of Meadowbrook Road, and is identified as map number 11, lot number 31. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 27.46 acres.
Mr. Chairman, just some brief comments I can offer. I think we're all familiar with Cherry Lawn Park. It supports several buildings, sheds, gazebos, there's access drives, there's paved parking areas, recreational courts, gardens, playgrounds, and other related facilities, associated with the recreational components of the park. On the property, it does consist of both uplands and wetlands. There's a reach of brook. There's a small to moderately sized pond that's on the property, and there's many large trees, particularly to the east. In advance of a prior application, the wetland soils were, and the upland and wetland soils were defined. The wetlands are generally to the eastern reaches of the property, and those wetlands range, well, they've been identified as Ackwins and Ridgeberry, Leicester, Whitman soils, but the vegetation in those wetland ranges from manicured lawn to moderately dense woods. And again, most of it are closely linked to the watercourse that runs through that eastern portion of the property, and that watercourse runs north to south. The property is not located in a special flood hazard area as well. So that, like many of the dredging projects that we've had in recent months, the applicant proposes to dredge the pond by removing the accumulated sediments, to restore the depth, cooler waters, and storage capacity of the pond, to improve water quality and mitigate flooding, and improve the overall aesthetic of the regulated areas. The pond has been subject to dense algae growth that has been chemically treated in more recent years, and there has been an aerator that's been placed in the pond as well. There has been, I can tell you, there's been complaints about odors and the quality of the waters in this particular pond. Again, like the other dredging projects we've recently received, this will not be done from essentially mechanical dredge, it's a suction dredge, in which a barge will be installed in the pond, the sediment will be pumped out of the pond to an already, the level of that depth has been already established they've probed it to find the soft materials and the hit hard bottom. It'll be pumped up to a space, a very flat space that's to the west of the tennis courts there, go into a geotextile bags, and will allow to dewater. That dewatering process will not only be overland, but through a hose because of linear distance to the edge of the water course to return the water. It's reported that about 1.5 to 2.25 feet of sediment shall be removed. It ends up that the wet volume is about 2,000 cubic yards. As a result of putting the geotextile bags will allow to do watering to compress, that material will compress to about 1,000 cubic yards, allowed to dry, removed from the property to an approved location that will be utilized. We had the materials tested, and the materials have come back relatively clear of contaminants. You have the reports in the package, but most importantly is that any of the contaminants fall below residential and commercial thresholds for concern. Erosion control plans have been provided, and the basic flood contingency plan has been provided. In all, it's a little over 30,000 square feet of open water, which is about 0.7 acres of pond area will be affected by the construction. In this case, the dredging is proposed for the fall of 2026. We spoke about the sediment testing, but what's I think more, or certainly as important as the dredging, was the commission's push for an effective management of the pond's edge. So the Parks and Recreation had contacted a landscape and environmental professional, Environmental Land Solutions, Kate Throckmorton, and she did really an outstanding plan that manages that edge and actually goes even further to restore a section of wetland that was cleared of vegetation several years ago. So it's not just planting, it involves removal of non-native invasives with a recommended duration in the practice regimen, removal of accumulated brush and debris, impediments to the unobstructed flow through the pond, some downed logs and so forth. It also includes the removal of lawn grass and manicured surface in select areas along the pond, and the installation of true native planting in the form of trees, shrubs, and ground covers, along with a maintenance schedule for that too. With the hopes of, instead of doing one big dredging project, that maybe some of these additional measures managing the edge will reduce the amount of fertilizers entering the pond, stabilizing the soil, will provide increased habitat and improve other functions and values of the regulated areas. They've done really quite an outstanding job on that component. They've also added the standard notes having to do with the use of synthetic deer repellents and some of those other things. No substitutions without the prior authority of the landscape designer and staff, and only the use of true natives.
Good evening. Matt Vogt, New England Aquatic Services. Good to be back here representing town.
Yeah, we feel like we really know you.
You didn't speak on the resolution, did you?
So This project is very similar to the one that you saw before for Tilly Pond Park in the sense that it's the same equipment. It's the floating dredge, which we're going to put into the pond. The pond has accumulated a pretty significant amount of organic debris on the bottom that we want to dredge out in the same way. We have the dewatering tube located uphill next to the tennis courts, the existing tennis courts. And the reason for that is that that area is pretty much the only flat area other than the sports fields. And these tubes need to be on flat area, otherwise they want to roll because they're big bags of water. The other option would be to put it closer to the pond, but then you'd have to do some significant site work and excavation to level that grade, you know, and kind of temporary level it and put it back. Way more disruptive than just pumping it up the hill from our perspective. So the idea is that we will pump that material to the dewatering tube, which will be in a staging area on a solid 12 mil plastic liner. That plastic liner will essentially create a temporary retaining pool with an area that will discharge the draining water from the bag. And we will have that guided to another pipeline to run back. So we'll have a pipeline going up and then one going back down, utilizing gravity to just carry that draining water back to the pond. The project is right now, I think we're looking at the fall. We were initially considering doing it in the spring, but given the amount of activity in that park, we thought it'd be better to kind of get an end of the season project at this point, so that we're as minimally disruptive as possible, because I think there's a lot of different kinds of use of this park compared to Tilly Pond Park. Aside from that, generally, again, same kind of setup. We'll have turbidity curtains protecting the outflow as much as possible to kind of mitigate any of that stirred up water from traveling downstream. The goal will be for all that water that's discharging from the dewatering tube to go back into the pond itself, rather than downstream. There is a catch basin, a storm drain basin there to catch flowing water, but I think that shoots downstream, so we're going to avoid any discharge from traveling that way. And that's I think pretty much the story on this project. We're going to have the material, we'll have to sit there for several months to dry when we're done. Again, this is mostly organics, so we expect it to reduce by about 50% from what it is in situ. So that's where we get from 2,000 cubic yards in the pond that we'll be dredging out. After it compacts, releases the water, the gases, things like that, you end up with about 1,000 cubic yards that'll be hauled away, and then the area restored back to the way that it is now.
That's 100 trucks. You figure 20 cubic yards per truck?
It is a lot of trucks in and out of there.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it, but as I say, that's
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's you got okay. No, I'm just assume you have 10 or 20 yard trucks.
Yeah, that's actually a separate subcontractor that we work with, but yes, they have significant equipment bigger than what we have the capacity for on that end of the work.
All right.
But there is, fortunately, in this particular park as well, a pretty good roadway that goes down to both that area where the dewatering tube is going to be and actually almost all the way down to the pond for us to launch our equipment.
That's right.
So hopefully not too much disruption to the park through that process.
Trevor, you're good?
I'm good.
I just have two things. So I understand why you're putting the dewatering tubes where you are, but the pipes that go between them are quite long. Are they flexible or rigid?
We actually have both. Primarily rigid plastic
Okay,
pipe.
because I'll tell you why. So in that area near the pond, there's several small native trees that the Darien Pollinator Pathway had been achieved a grant to plant those trees, and if they're in the way, we just want to make sure that they're removed properly and taken care of and then put back afterwards, but they may not be a problem. If the tubes are flexible, they could, just go around.
He has to work around it.
Yeah, we have.
It's not his
that's
first
not an
rodeo.
issue, and they're 6-inch
But they're
pipes.
still quite little. That's,
Okay, well, we'll make.
They don't show on this plan. That's why I wanted to point it out. And the other thing, same thing with bringing the truck down, because you're going down Earth Road, I think, Earth Driveway, I guess it's called.
Were those recently planted?
They were planted 2 or 3 years ago. They're
Okay,
quite
so
small.
would have seen them, but we'll make sure to
Okay.
mark everything out to
Okay.
protect them.
Yeah, okay. And the other question that I have for you is just like, what can be done to sort of reduce the need for this to be done again in the near future, and to sort of, lessen the need to have to use, chemicals to, to take care of the odor and the algal growth?
That's a great question. Obviously, removing that material helps with that internal loading source of those nutrients, which is a big reason why we're doing it. Gaining a little more water storage in there, so you have a little more water turnover and dilution. The planting plan is a fantastic addition to this project as well. That's going to help a lot there. I mean, you have long lawn that goes down. I mean, there's some stuff there now, but really, I think that's going to have a big impact. You're a little bit at the mercy in terms of nutrients of just the water course itself. As we know, everything's coming downstream from wherever else that it gathers, every watershed.
So if we could kind of encourage anyone whose property abuts that water course, if they have lawn that goes right up to it, maybe to, put some plantings in there, or to not use so many chemicals on their lawn, that would be helpful.
Any of that encouragement is always helpful. I
Okay.
think that it's obviously the practice of this commission to push for landscape mitigation plans as parts of these projects anytime that you can.
Have you dredged this pond before? Has this,
No,
has
not
the
this
pond
one,
been
not this
dredged
one,
before?
no.
Okay.
So I think that's great in the big scheme. Again, hard to control specifically for the pond, but the big picture kind of philosophy is helpful with that kind of stuff. This pond is, in my opinion, and I don't have a ton of experience with it, I mean, I assessed it, it's a little bit different than, say, Tilly Pond Park, because that one seems to get a lot of material coming downstream. It has that 4-bay pond that you're planning to work in to catch it. This doesn't have that. I don't know if it necessitates it or not. Seems to me like a lot of this material, and this frankly deserves probably a little bit closer look, but a lot of this material seem like organics. There's a lot of trees around the
There's
pond.
lots of
You know,
forest
for
up there.
decades,
There's a lot of
been
forest
in
there, yeah.
That stuff's hard to prevent because you have that balance of you
Yeah.
want to have
Right,
trees nearby,
right,
but
right.
there's not a great way to fish them out every fall. So that's kind of like the thing that's going to set the timeline the most, as that stuff goes in there. Certainly, when it comes to park crews cleaning up in the fall, making sure that if they're doing leaf cleanup around there, that they're not just blowing it into the pond.
Yeah.
That kind of conversation is always helpful. I think, we will probably take, like I said, a little closer look at that inlet stream and make some assessments just to see, if we find that there's significant amounts of sand or something in the delta, in a delta that was formed or something, we'll have a bigger conversation with Park and Rec about if something needs to happen there. Again, I'm a little, in this particular case.
So we'll get a little
less
bit of
likely.
feedback from you on this.
If
as
there's
we
anything
do
worth
the work.
feeding back.
Okay, yeah, right. Thank you.
I have a question. Like on Tilly Pond, are you doing like a yearly, or is it bi-yearly review of it?
So,
Part of it.
we hadn't really talked about that. Tilly Pond, it's a little bit more obvious because of that 4-bay pond, but as we kind of sit here and talk about it, I'm thinking that probably an assessment, when I'm doing assessments for Tilly Pond, it's easy to shoot over there and just take a quick peek, see if there's any additional accumulation. We definitely expect it at that Tilly Pond 4-bay, but here it'll be good just to look and, we'll get a grasp on whether or not that's something that is
Yeah.
having an impact.
That's a good
Yeah.
recommendation. That's a
I mean, did
good,
you, is that part of the contract on this one? Was it part of the one, was it part of Tilly's? The
It's
assessment?
sort of a gratis part of the contract that we offered for Tilly, so we'll probably just happily do the same thing
Yeah,
again.
if
Doesn't
you're in
take
the
much
area,
time to
yeah.
take a peek, and if
Yeah.
we determine that additional programs need to be put in place, we'll certainly make the recommendation.
okay, Rick, you want to write that one up for approval next month?
Do you have a interested party?
Oh, you have it? I'm sorry, you'd like to speak on this?
No, I'm on TM Parks and Rec Committee, I'm just following it. I
Oh,
know
okay, no, fine, I
really
guess,
well.
okay. Sorry to,
No, it's all
okay.
good.
So maybe I could just
We're good.
raise an issue, it's not germane to our commission, but would you more lightly dredge around the dock area? And what I'm thinking about is for safety concerns. to keep the height around the dock higher than maybe the rest of the dredging. It's, again, not an EPC issue, but I'm thinking at the edge of that dock, that's 6 feet down at the final estimate, and if it's like 4 feet or 3 feet now, that might have a safety element for children because they tend to play on that dock.
So our goal is to
If you
target.
don't- I guess what I'm saying is around the pool to not deeply dredge it because that does tend to,
I'd argue that.
huh?
I'd argue that having jumped, I personally jumped off that more than,
Yeah, there
more
you
times.
go.
And-
I think my kids
And
did
I
too.
would say if it was less, you know, if you're chasing me and I jump into the pond, I'm just going in, okay? And if it's 3 feet, I'm gonna get
I
there.
don't think it's gonna matter the depth for the jump, one way or another. I think they're just gonna do it.
So, anyway, that was,
Yeah, anyway, so something more for the Parks Commission than for us.
that's for them
Say
to,
that one comment as somebody who's there daily, the kids do play in that pond.
Yes.
Like, they don't play in Tilly.
Yes.
They don't play
They
in
swim in
Tilly,
it?
Tilly is raised. Kids are playing in Cherry Lawn the whole time. The
Yes.
Daily Nature Center kids, they have their programs, they're in it.
Mm-hmm.
When there were things that were alive there, they were pulling tadpoles, but there's nothing there yet because of the poor oxygen levels. So thank you we're happy to be dredging it. But I would say particularly they play on the edges. And so that actually does need to be dredged because
Okay.
it was so toxic.
Good, I'm
So,
glad
thank you
someone's
for-
thinking about these issues, not us. Thank you.
Name? Name? Do you get a name?
Oh, sorry, I did not get your name.
Oh, I'm Patty, P-A-T-T-I, Baumgartner, B-U-M-G-A-R, D-N-E-R, and I'm RTM, Parks and
I got that before, yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
okay. You wanna write it up?
What's that?
Okay, as always, great presentation.
Appreciate it. Do you need me to stay up here for anything with the?
No,
resolution?
no, this next one's a resolution, so. EPC 03-2026 PL 25-240 West Avenue, Town of Darien, to maintenance dredge pond, forebay in Tilly Park Pond. The project affects wetlands, watercourses, and upland review areas. The property lies along the north side of West Avenue, just east of Lakeside Avenue, and is identified as map number 17, lot number 87. The zone is R1/3 and R15, and is approximately 8.5 acres. You have a resolution in front of you. Okay, basically, we've heard the New England Aquatics guy. Any questions or comments on this? No?
I just had those few typos.
Okay,
But I
good.
copied you one.
Yep.
Also, can I just report quickly, is one of the conditions that's outlined in the resolution was for the submission of a planting plan.
Mhm.
This is one where they intend to start, sooner than weeks, as opposed, they want to do it in the
Mm.
spring. So the construction is done, but the dredge is done by
June, I think.
June.
isn't it? Yeah.
when it starts to peak on the usage of the park. But similarly, I can report they've already submitted a planting plan and management plan for the edge of the pond. And again, similarly to what was shown on Cherry Lawn Park, they did a very nice job.
It's the same landscape architect?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, through marking, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
Yes, I make a motion to approve EPC 03-2026, 40 West Avenue, Town of Darien, to maintenance dredge a pond in Forebay and Tilly Pond Park.
Second that motion?
All in favor? 401. Thank you very much. Approval of minutes, April 4th. Everybody got those? If you hadn't noticed, Rick, I believe, gets paid by the word. Okay. So,
It takes forever to read that.
it's pretty impressive. So, I have to talk to Jeremy about that. Anyway, if you made it through the minutes, if you have any questions or comments, I know you've submitted some stuff. Can I have a motion to approve?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the minutes from public hearing and regular meeting of EPC, February 4th, 2026.
Second the motion to approve minutes?
All in favor? Thank you very much. There's no agent approvals, there's no other business. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the EPC Wednesday, March 4th, 2026.
And second the motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Good night, Channel 79.